Édith Piaf, the little sparrow who conquered the world, full biography and untold life story. The voice that defied destiny. Paris, 1930s. The hum of the city drifts through narrow alleyways, accordion players in cafes, vendors shouting in open markets, the muffled laughter of lovers tucked into shadows. But then, above it all, something cuts through like a knife. A voice. Not polished, not trained, but raw and devastatingly human. That voice belonged to Édith Piaf, the little sparrow, whose song will become the soul of France. Her story is not merely one of music. It is a story of survival against impossible odds, of a child abandoned yet destined to soar. Piaf's voice carried the wounds of her past and the hopes of millions. Every note she sang was a confession, a battle cry, a prayer. And tonight, we uncover her full biography, the untold life story of a woman who sang with her blood and lived without regret. Born in shadows, destined for song. Edith Giovanna Gassion was born on December 19, 1915, in the working-class district of Belleville, Paris. Her birth was not marked by celebration. It was overshadowed by hardship. Her mother, Annetta, was a cafe singer too caught up in her own struggles to care for a child. Her father, Louis, an acrobat who performed in circuses and on the streets, was often away. Little Edith's early years were filled with abandonment. When her mother left her, she was sent to live with her paternal grandmother, who ran a brothel in Normandy. There, surrounded by prostitutes, Edith found her first taste of maternal care. They fed her, clothed her, and even helped nurse her back to health during illness. At the age of 3, Edith suffered from keratitis, which left her blind for 4 years. Her grandmother took her on a pilgrimage to St. Therese of Lisieux, and Edith would later claim that it was St. Therese who restored her sight. Whether miracle or coincidence, Edith believed in it until her final days. Even in poverty, even in blindness, Edith's destiny was being carved, to rise from the shadows and sing for the world. Street songs, street survival. By the time she was 14, Edith had joined her father in performing on the streets of Paris. While he entertained crowds with acrobatics, she sang. She had no training, but her voice carried something unique, an emotional honesty that drew strangers to stop and listen. Passers-by would weep at her songs, tossing coins into the hat. Street singing gave her more than just money. It gave her her first audience. It taught her how to connect with people not through technical skill, but through pure feeling. And that would remain the foundation of her artistry. But the streets were unforgiving. At times, she had no home, no security, nothing but her voice. Yet she refused to give in to despair. Every song was survival. Every performance an act of resistance against a life that had abandoned her. La Mon Piaf, the little sparrow takes flight. In 1935, fate intervened. Louis Lepley, a nightclub owner, heard Edith singing on a Parisian street. Struck by her tiny frame and enormous voice, he invited her to perform at his club. He gave her the stage name La Mon Piaf, the little sparrow. Her debut stunned the audience. Wearing a simple black dress, shy yet commanding, she sang with sincerity that bypassed all defenses. Her voice was not technically perfect, but was drenched in emotion, joy, sorrow, longing, all at once. Paris had never heard anything like it. Soon, she was a sensation. Newspapers called her a rising star. Audiences flocked to see her. But her joy was short-lived. In 1936, Lepley was murdered by gangsters, and because of her associations, Piaf was briefly implicated. Scandal nearly destroyed her career before it began. But she was no ordinary singer. With the help of mentor Raymond Asso, who polished her diction and taught her stagecraft, Piaf clawed her way back. By the late 1930s, she was on her way to becoming a household name. Love as ecstasy, love as destruction. Piaf loved as she sang, recklessly, passionately, with abandon. Her life was marked by intense romances, each leaving a scar in a song. Among her many affairs, one love stood above all. Marcel Cerdan, the French-Algerian boxer and world champion. They met in 1948, and their connection was immediate. Piaf would write long letters to him, brimming with longing and fire. Their love affair became legendary. Two souls at the height of their fame, bound by passion. But tragedy struck in 1949 when Cerdain's plane crashed en route to New York to visit her. Piaf was inconsolable. Out of that grief came All the More, one of her most enduring songs. When she sang it, the pain was palpable. Audiences could feel her loss as if it were their own. Love gave Piaf inspiration, but it also consumed her. Each romance was a storm, passionate, beautiful, and ultimately devastating. The Sparrow becomes the voice of France. The 1940s and 50s catapulted Piaf into international fame. She performed across Europe, South America, and the United States. Her 1956 debut at Carnegie Hall was a triumph, marking her as a global star. Songs like La Vie en Rose, with its dreamy optimism, became international hits. My Lord, about a working-class woman comforting a rich man, showcased Piaf's empathy for outsiders. Padam Padam captured the haunting pull of memory. And Non, Ne Regrette Rien, released in 1960, became her anthem of resilience and defiance. Even for audiences who didn't speak French, Piaf's performances transcended language. People didn't need to understand her words. They felt her emotions. Her voice communicated universally. Pain, joy, longing, courage. Addiction, illness, and the price of fame. Behind the glory, Piaf's body was breaking. A series of car accidents left her in chronic pain. To endure, she turned to morphine and alcohol, addictions that haunted her until her death. Friends often had to carry her onto the stage, her body too weak to walk. Yet, once the spotlight hit, she transformed. Her trembling frame steadied, her voice filled the room, and she gave everything she had. Performing was her lifeline. Without it, she admitted, she had no reason to live. Her personal life grew increasingly chaotic. Failed marriages, affairs, and the constant battle with addiction painted a picture of a woman simultaneously adored by millions and yet profoundly alone. Final bow, no regrets. In 1960, Piaf recorded Non, Ne Regrette Rien. To the world, it was a song. To Piaf, it was a declaration. She had lived through abandonment, poverty, scandal, heartbreak, addiction, and yet she regretted nothing. By 1963, her body could no longer endure. On October 10th, she died at just 47 years old. Paris was paralyzed with grief. Over 100,000 people lined the streets for her funeral, the largest Paris had seen since Victor Hugo. The Catholic Church denied her rights because of her scandalous life, but to the people, she was already canonized as the Saint of Song. The Sparrow's Eternal Flight. Édith Piaf remains one of the greatest voices of the 20th century. Her music continues to inspire artists worldwide. Celine Dion once said Piaf taught her how to sing with her soul. Madonna, Lady Gaga, and countless performers have cited Piaf as an influence. Her songs appear in films from Inception to Saving Private Ryan, reminding audiences that her voice belongs not to one era, but to eternity. What makes Piaf immortal is not just her music, but her authenticity. She didn't just sing about love, she lived it. She didn't just perform sorrow, she endured it. She was human in every note. The Sparrow's song never ends. The story of Édith Piaf is not a fairy tale. It is a saga of pain and beauty, a fragile woman who turned her suffering into art. She rose from abandonment to become the heartbeat of France, and in doing so, gave the world a gift that transcends time. When we hear La Vie en Rose, we are reminded to see love in every color. When we hear All the More, we are reminded of love's fragility. When we hear Non, Ne Regrette Rien, we are reminded to embrace life with all its wounds without regret. The little sparrow may have fallen, but her song still soars. Across generations, across continents, Édith Piaf sings on forever.